On the morning of July 2nd, 2025, in the quiet town of Union, Maine, Sunshine was found dead in her own bedroom. She had been murdered, and the horror of that discovery would send shockwaves not just through her family, but through the entire community, and eventually, the entire country. A beautiful, hopeful teenage girl gone, snatched from life, under the most terrifying of circumstances. This wasn't just another homicide case. This was a cold-blooded betrayal by someone she had known. Someone who had smiled in front of her parents, eaten dinner in her home, and claimed to be her friend. The brutality of what happened and the deception that came before it would unravel slowly in the weeks that followed. But on that first terrible day, July 2nd, only one thing was certain. Sunshine was gone, and nothing would ever be the same. Sunshine was a junior at Meadowmark Valley High School. Described by her teachers as brilliant, compassionate, and ambitious, she had dreams of becoming a nurse. Her mother, Danielle Stewart, said Sunshine had always wanted to help people, whether it was volunteering at the local animal shelter or mentoring younger girls at her school. She was constantly giving, constantly loving, constantly shining. She was one of those rare teenagers who didn't care about cliques or popularity. She had friends from every group, every background. She loved baking, writing poetry, and playing guitar on her front porch. Her younger brother Mason said she'd sing to him every night before bed. Even now he says, "It's the silence that hurts the most." At 6:37 a.m. on July 2nd, Danielle Stewart made a 911 call that no mother should ever have to make. Her voice, trembling but somehow holding on, said the words that would launch one of Maine's most heartbreaking murder investigations in years. "My daughter's not breathing. She's in her bed. And there's blood." Emergency responders arrived at the small white farmhouse on Sennebec Road within minutes. What they found was a crime scene that shook even veteran officers. Sunshine was lying on her bed, stabbed multiple times, her face peaceful, almost as if she'd been asleep when it happened. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no tripped alarms. It was an inside job. By 7:15 a.m., the entire road had been blocked off. Yellow crime scene tape surrounded the home. Neighbors stood outside in disbelief. Reporters would later write that even the birds had gone silent in Union that day. Detectives from the Knox County Sheriff's Office began their investigation immediately. They focused first on the family, but Danielle and her two sons were quickly ruled out. Phone records, location pings, and security footage from a nearby gas station confirmed their alibis. Attention turned to Sunshine's inner circle. Who had access to her home? Who knew where her bedroom was? Who could have gotten in without making a sound? And that's when a name came up. Skylar Brooks, a 17-year-old classmate of Sunshine's, a girl who had been in and out of Sunshine's life for the past 2 years. They had once been best friends, but according to classmates, the relationship had grown toxic recently. Arguments, jealousy, a fallout over a boy. Sunshine had even told one friend that she was starting to feel unsafe around Skylar. Detectives interviewed Skylar on the evening of July 2nd. She claimed she hadn't seen Sunshine in over a week. She said she'd been home all night with her grandmother. Her voice didn't shake. She didn't flinch. But something about her calmness, it just didn't sit right. What changed the course of the investigation was something seemingly small. A broken charm bracelet found beneath Sunshine's bed. It was a custom bracelet, gifted to her by a friend 2 years earlier. It had one name engraved on the remaining charm, Sky. That discovery led police to request a search warrant for Skylar Brooks's home, and what they found there began to unravel the lie she'd been holding. A blood-stained hoodie tucked beneath a floorboard in Skylar's closet. The blood matched Sunshine's DNA. There was also a journal filled with disturbing entries, rage-filled writings about Sunshine, accusations of betrayal. The last entry, dated July 1st, ended with the words, "Tomorrow, she'll finally feel what I feel." By July 4th, Independence Day, there were no fireworks in Union, Maine. Instead, the town gathered for a candlelight vigil outside Sunshine's school. Hundreds came, dressed in yellow, holding sunflowers, her favorite flower. Her best friend Lily read one of Sunshine's poems aloud as tears fell freely. "I want to leave light behind," it said. Even when I go, let me shine. It was the kind of poem you write when you believe you have decades ahead of you. Sunshine never imagined that those would become her eulogy. The shocking evidence found in Skylar Brooks's bedroom. A blood-stained hoodie, violent journal entries, and the charm bracelet linking her to Sunshine Stewart's room was enough to get a warrant for her arrest. On the evening of July 5, 2025, just 3 days after Sunshine's murder, officers from the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit pulled into the quiet cul-de-sac where Skylar lived with her grandmother. Skylar was sitting on the front porch, scrolling through her phone. When detectives approached, she didn't run, she didn't scream. She simply looked up, blinked, and said, "I knew you'd come." Those words alone would haunt Union for months. Skylar Brooks was taken into custody and brought to the Knox County Sheriff's Office. The interrogation lasted nearly 8 hours, much of it captured on camera. At first, Skylar was emotionless, flat-toned, claiming once again that she had no idea what happened to Sunshine. She repeated her story. She'd been home the night of July 1st, watching Netflix with her grandmother. But when detectives confronted her with the hoodie, Sunshine's blood soaked into the fabric, and the bracelet found under the victim's bed, her demeanor began to change. "That bracelet doesn't prove anything," she said at first. But then they read from her journal, line by line, entry after entry. And when they got to the final one, "Tomorrow she'll finally feel what I feel," Skylar broke. According to official transcripts, she lowered her head, sighed deeply, and whispered, "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted her to know what she did to me." That was it. A confession, and one that stunned even the detectives questioning her. Digging deeper into Skylar and Sunshine's relationship revealed a heartbreaking and disturbing pattern. They'd met in 8th grade, instantly becoming close friends. But by the time they were sophomores, cracks had begun to show. Skylar was described by some students as possessive, jealous, and obsessive. She didn't like Sunshine having other friends. She was often seen reading her texts over her shoulder, accusing her of hiding things and even following her around school. When Sunshine tried to create distance between them in early 2025, that distance only fueled Skylar's resentment. Several classmates said Skylar had become increasingly volatile, telling people Sunshine had betrayed her, ruined her life, and even deserved pain. The specific spark that lit the fire. A boy, a mutual friend, that Sunshine had started seeing just weeks before her murder. Skylar had once dated him, and though she claimed to be over it, her journal said otherwise. "She took him from me, like she always takes everything. I'm done being second to Sunshine." It wasn't just about romance. It was about power, jealousy, and revenge. For several days, police couldn't find the murder weapon. But on July 7, detectives received a tip from a neighbor who reported seeing Skylar walking through the woods behind her house the morning after the murder. That area was searched, and under a pile of brush, investigators found a 6-inch kitchen knife wrapped in a towel. Forensics later confirmed it as the weapon that had taken Sunshine's life. The blade had traces of both girls' DNA, Sunshine's blood, and Skylar's fingerprints. This confirmed what the prosecution feared. The act was premeditated. They would later uncover Google searches on Skylar's phone from the week before the murder. How to sneak into a house at night, fastest way to kill someone quietly. Do friends who kill always go to prison? These searches, paired with the journal entries and the weapon recovery, allowed the Maine district attorney to charge Skylar Brooks with first-degree murder, burglary, and criminal use of a weapon. On July 9, Skylar appeared in Knox County Superior Court via video from jail. She was wearing a suicide prevention vest, silent as the judge read the charges aloud. Her public defender entered a plea of not guilty, though the evidence against her was already overwhelming. The judge ordered that Skylar be held without bail due to the nature of the crime and her journal indicating a disturbing pattern of obsession and violence. She was remanded to the Long Creek Youth Development Center, though prosecutors immediately filed a motion to have her tried as an adult. A court hearing was scheduled for August to determine if Skylar would face adult sentencing, including life in prison without parole. For the first time since the murder, on July 10, Sunshine's mother, Danielle Stewart, addressed the media. Standing in front of her daughter's high school, surrounded by family and community members, she spoke through tears. She was the kind of person who forgave easily, loved without limits, and made life worth living. to know that someone she once called a friend did this. It breaks me, but I promise you, we will fight for justice. Danielle also started the Sunshine Foundation, aimed at raising awareness of teen violence, toxic friendships, and warning signs of obsessive behavior. Within a week, the foundation raised over $50,000 for legal support and school-based mental health initiatives. Union, Maine, population just under 2,500, had never seen anything like this. A girl killed in her own bed by a peer over jealousy and rage. The town was shattered. School counselors were dispatched to Meadowmack Valley High School. Trauma therapists held nightly sessions at the local library. Churches opened their doors for grieving families. Social media exploded with tributes, artwork, and poems dedicated to Sunshine. Her TikTok account, which had only 300 followers before her death, skyrocketed to 70,000 as strangers across the country came to learn about the beautiful girl taken too soon. On August 2nd, 2025, just 1 month after Sunshine Stewart's life was stolen, Skylar Brooks was officially indicted by a grand jury for first-degree murder, aggravated burglary, and criminal use of a dangerous weapon. Prosecutors successfully argued to have Skylar tried as an adult, citing her premeditated actions, disturbing journal entries, and the violent nature of the crime. For a girl just 16, Skylar now faced the possibility of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was packed with family members, classmates, and reporters. Sunshine's mother, Danielle, sat in the front row every single day of the hearing, clutching a photo of her daughter. Across the aisle sat Skylar's grandmother, shaken, silent, eyes red from weeks of crying. Skylar didn't speak during the hearings. Her attorneys submitted multiple motions, including a psychological evaluation to determine her mental state. In court documents, they described her as socially isolated, emotionally dependent, and suffering from untreated mental health issues exacerbated by abandonment trauma. But the prosecution pushed back, arguing that Skylar had a full grasp of her actions. The chilling journal entries, her calculated online searches, and her calm post-murder behavior all painted a picture of deliberate intent, not mental breakdown. The judge agreed Skylar would be tried as an adult, and if convicted, she would spend the rest of her life behind bars. On August 5th, hundreds gathered for Sunshine Stewart's memorial service at a community church in Union. Her white coffin was adorned with sunflowers, her favorite. Friends wore yellow, her favorite color. Her high school choir sang, "You Are My Sunshine," and her best friend read a tearful poem titled, "The Light You Left Behind." Danielle spoke last. Her voice didn't shake, her grief didn't hide. "I am broken, but I'm not destroyed. Sunshine gave me 16 years of laughter, love, and lessons, and even in death, she's teaching us. She's teaching us to listen, to the quiet cries, the warning signs, the unspoken pain. We didn't see it coming, but now we must never look away again." That speech was posted online and viewed over 3 million times in the first week. Skylar Brooks's trial is scheduled to begin on November 18, 2025, in Knox County Superior Court. The district attorney confirmed they would seek the maximum sentence under Maine law, life imprisonment without parole, citing the cruel, calculated, and cold nature of the attack. In the meantime, the Sunshine Foundation has grown from a grieving family's response into a statewide movement. The foundation now works with schools to educate teens on recognizing signs of obsessive relationships, toxic friendships, and manipulative behavior. It advocates for early mental health intervention in schools and more support for students dealing with trauma. Within a month, the foundation partnered with the Maine Department of Education to pilot a program called Safe Circles. Sunshine's murder wasn't just another tragic headline, it struck a national nerve. For many families, it was a wake-up call that sometimes the threat to our children doesn't come from strangers, but from the people closest to them. That behind smiling selfies and TikTok dances, there can be unseen darkness. That best friends forever can sometimes turn deadly. News outlets across the country covered the story. Podcasts, true crime channels, and mental health advocates began discussing it. Hashtags like Justice for Sunshine, Toxic Friendship Awareness, and Youth Mental Health Crisis began trending. The story wasn't just about a murder, It was about warning signs ignored, help not given, and a life lost far too soon. A month after her daughter's funeral, Danielle Stewart appeared on national television. She wasn't just a grieving mother anymore, she had become a voice for every parent who'd lost a child to senseless violence. When asked what she wanted the world to take from Sunshine's story, Danielle replied, "I want parents to ask better questions. I want schools to look beyond grades and attendance and see the emotional red flags. I want teams to know that controlling behavior isn't love, obsession isn't loyalty, and if you feel unsafe, even with a friend, you must speak up. Don't wait, don't stay silent." Sunshine Stewart should have started her junior year this fall. She should have gone to prom. She should have graduated. She should have had the chance to grow, to dream, to live. But instead, her story ends with a gravestone in Union Cemetery and a community still asking, how did this happen? And maybe we'll never have all the answers, but we do have a choice to make sure it never happens again. No one should feel threatened by someone they call a friend. Sunshine Stewart didn't have to die, but her story might save someone else. Subscribe us for more case, also comment for Sunshine Stewart.